Hello FPL managers and welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub's Game Week 5 preview with me, James. As always, I'm joined by BigManBakar. Bakar, good game week 4?
Decent enough, 71 points. Took a 4-point hit, so ended up on a net score of 67. Got myself a green arrow of 100k, which is really, really good. I'm very, very happy with my start of the season, and here's to hoping that I crack on. How about yourself, James?
Very nice. I got 79 points, actually, so a good game week for me. The caveat is that I did use my wild card. Not really particularly productively either. Bought in Calvert-Lewin, had Antonio, so I've got some remedial work to do in my team already, which you never really want the week after a wild card, but these things happen. I'm feeling good. I'm in the top 100k, so certainly can't complain, mate. We have a eventful game week 5 to get through, so I reckon if you're happy, Bakar, we jump straight into it. Let's firstly take a look at the fixtures for game week 5. Some interesting ones there, some bankers, you might say, if you own these premium assets. Let's get into the nitty gritty though, and we start, of course, and this is a warning for all FPL managers watching. Remember that Game Week 5's deadline is on a Friday, 6:30. So make sure you lock in those teams before then. Don't be caught out by the devious Friday night fixture. It is Newcastle versus Leeds. And you want to talk first and foremost, Bakar, about Bamford and Rafinha's prospects against that leaky Newcastle defence.
Absolutely. I'm a firm advocate of the double up. I know that double up is owned by almost 13% of managers, and I think that they're going to be a huge differential for those who own them in the weeks to come. Newcastle this season, they've had the worst XG conceded, the highest amount of big chances conceded. So I believe this is a very, very good fixture for Leeds, and this is one to target by FPL managers. Bamford is back in training, thankfully. He's training, he's perfectly fine to go. And a lot of FPL managers are looking at him, And I'm personally a huge advocate of the move from Calvert-Lewin or even Antonio personally. He's had just the 3 big chances almost this season, which is decent considering the fact that Leeds had tough fixtures to begin with. They've had Man United, Liverpool, Everton in 3 of their first 4, which tells me that those numbers are perfectly fine. And even when I compare his numbers this season to last season, they're almost at par. So I expect his numbers to improve in the weeks to come. And this is the week where I think he does well. I when I was looking at the numbers, James, I noticed that Newcastle, they're second worst for chances conceded down the middle. And I think Bamford's going to profit this week.
It's easy to forget with Bamford that he was, last season, the second highest point scorer amongst forwards. The first 4 game weeks haven't really reflected that, but it does show the FPL potential that he has, Bakar. And did I hear you say there that you would actually advocate a 1-week swap from Antonio to Bamford if you don't have to deal with the Calvert-Lewin issue?
This honestly depends on the team, because from the teams I look at, most of the FPL squads, they don't exactly have great subs this week. I mean, I see some people playing the likes of Norwich players or basically other players who don't have fixtures this week. You look at Livramento, he doesn't have a good fixture. Even the Arsenal defenders or Leeds defenders, they aren't really a dead search for a clean sheet this week, which is why I think the opportunity is there to take advantage. And this, I don't advocate a 1-week move. If you're getting Bamford, you're getting him in for the long run. There's no point of swapping back and forth, in my opinion. Because of the fixtures that Bamford has, the next 4 fixtures, none of the opposition he's playing are in the top 10 for XG conceded, which is why I think that move could actually pay off.
Okay, I like it. As an Antonio owner who will remain an Antonio owner, I'm hoping that by the time we get to game week 6, he's going to be a bit of a differential. So, yes, I'd firmly encourage that managers get rid of Antonio. Wolves versus Brentford is the early kickoff on Saturday. Let's take a look at it. You've singled out Semedo and Marcel. I've got Semedo's stats on the screen at the moment. Why have you singled out these particular defenders, Bakar?
Honestly, James, I think these two are going to be superb value in the weeks to come. Particularly Semedo, I just think there's a 15-pointer waiting to happen in the next 2 to 3 game weeks. I can sense it. His numbers are so good. Ever since he started playing in game week 2, he's top among defenders for penalty area touches, big chances, second for XG. And even when you look at his average position map, he's playing right up there as almost like a right forward. So he has immense attacking potential. And when you look at Wolves defensively, even this week they limited Watford to just the 2 shots inside the box, XG of around 0.3, 0.4, which is great. Honestly, Wolves they've really impressed me, and I think they're gonna keep clean sheets in the weeks to come. Marçal, as far as Marçal is concerned, I think he doesn't have the same attacking potential as someone like a Semedo. But in my opinion, he's just 4.6 actually. He just rose in price a couple of days ago. So 4.6. So even at that price, even if you don't account for the attacking potential that he has, he's going to represent value because Wolves are going to keep clean sheets.
Let's talk Jimenez as well, because he seems to be the other side of the Calvert-Lewin replacement coin. What do you make of him? Good underlying stats, not yet posting the FPL points.
Now this actually depends on the numbers you look at. When you look at his chances created numbers or his shots inside the box, both, he's actually one of the very few players to have a double-digit tally for both of these numbers. But when you look at his big chance involvements, he's had just the 2, and both of them came against Watford this week. Which tells me, when I look at the average position map or even watch some of their highlights, he's dropping deep and he's allowing someone like, Traore, Trincao or the fullbacks to actually make the runs behind him. At the moment, he's not too much of a goal threat, but he's carrying a significant amount of assist potential.
One of our hub contributors, and apologies, I can't remember who it was, described his role at the moment as almost Firmino-esque. So more of a provider for those 2 wingers either side of him than an out-and-out goal.
And the fullbacks as well. The fullbacks,
yes. Semedo, certainly a beneficiary of Jimenez's distribution. And let's also talk about Brentford's defence. I've got on the screen at the moment the total FPL point scorers amongst defenders in the first 4 game weeks. And you'll see the usual club badges there: Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, couple of West Ham sprinkled in. And then suddenly there's 2 Brentford defenders in there as well, Jansen and Pinnock, both doing very, very well. Do you think they can sustain this point scoring, Bakar, or are their days numbered?
That's an interesting question because their fixtures coming up are actually very difficult. Their next 5 to 6 game weeks are difficult. So I won't advise anyone to invest in any of their defenders, but I do think they have a solid defense. When you look at their numbers, they've conceded just the 2 big chances this season, and as far as their XG conceded from open play is concerned, they're 3rd best, and that's not something you'd expect from a promoted team, which tells me that against mid-table teams, Brentford are going to be a very good team to get defenders from, or even the keeper for clean sheets.
What would be your score prediction for that early kickoff then, with all of that in mind? Wolves win?
I think so. I'd probably expect 2-0 or 2-1. I don't think it would be a thrashing. I think Brentford will give them a decent game, but I expect Wolves to win.
Okay, let's talk about Burnley versus Arsenal, the first of the 3 o'clock kickoffs that we'll go through. I actually invested in Tierney on my wildcard after hearing your advice, Bakar. So I'm hoping you've got good news for me when it comes to their defensive prospects in game week 5.
They looked much better last week against Norwich. They conceded just the 5 shots and an XG of just 0.4, but it was Norwich, right? So I'm not sure how much to read into it, to be honest, and I'm not exactly sure how to call this game. Personally, if you ask me, I still won't be calling a clean sheet in this fixture with any kind of confidence. I personally think that Burnley will score. They, especially with the threat they carry from set plays, they were decent against Everton. I personally think they will score against Arsenal. Unfortunately for Tierney and White owners, but that's how I read it.
Okay, we'll have to depend on those attacking potential that the likes of Tierney have, I suppose. Okay, let's talk about Liverpool versus Crystal Palace. Lots to say about this game, not least because, of course, many of us tripling up on Liverpool assets at the moment. You firstly singled out Jota, Trent and Mane. I've got Mane's stats on the screen at the moment. A wasteful but statistically impressive Game Week 4 fixture from Mane.
Exactly, and he has a very good record against Palace as well. Historically, his record against Palace is better than against any other Premier League team in the league. His numbers this season have actually been better than Salah's. Especially from Game Week 2 onwards, what's happening is that Trent has taken up a more of an inverted full-back role. Salah is playing a bit wider, and Mane is coming central, which is why he's getting the opportunities, and his numbers have been really impressive. It's just that he's been very, very wasteful, and he was rested last night as well in the Champions League. So I fully expect him to start. And for his owners, I think he's a very good choice this week. As far as Trent is concerned, I firmly believe that he's honestly a must own at this point. 20 chances created in the first 4 fixtures is absolutely incredible, averaging 5 chances created a game, and he's by far and away the best chance creator in the league right now. The second best is actually Grealish with 13.
Wow.
Which is a huge difference from Trent.
Yeah.
And Jota's owners were simply unlucky in the game against Leeds. He created 2 big chances for Mane. Mane missed both of them and converted the third one he got, which made it even more infuriating for those who invested in him. I personally didn't own him, and I was thanking my lucky stars, because honestly that game had a Jota double-digit haul written all over it.
Yeah, as someone who bought Jota in on my wild card, that doesn't make me feel any better. I watched that game and it was so frustrating, particularly as you say, Mane so clinical when Jota wasn't the one providing chances for him. Do we expect Jota to start in Game Week 5, given he got about 70 minutes midweek?
I'd probably lean towards yes, simply because the attack has been firing, and I don't really see a reason for Klopp to change it. You could argue that he might choose to rest and rotate, but in my opinion, I think he's going to stick with the same attack, personally.
I hope so. That would be extra salt in the wound if Jota is then rested against Crystal Palace. Let's talk about Salah as well, Bakar, because he is... we did the captaincy video with FPL Salah on Tuesday, and Salah was backing... FPL Salah was backing real Salah as his Game Week 5 captain. Are you doing the same?
I am absolutely doing the same, James, and I hope you are as well.
It was on Ronaldo. I've got to say, it was on Ronaldo.
Yeah, I saw the video. Yeah. I saw the video, yep. I hope you're firmly on Salah now. I say that because there are 2-3 reasons. Firstly is when I look at his personal record against Palace, it's been really, really strong. At home, over the past 3 fixtures, he's had like 15, 12, 11 points in the past 3 seasons at home. Other than that, it's the major swinging point for me, the turning point for me is the fact that I mentioned last season about home and away when we were discussing Man United versus Newcastle. I mentioned this in the last video that 62% of the goals by game week 3 had been scored by the team at home, while just the 38% were scored by the away team. Well, in Game Week 4, the same trend followed, and 58% of the goals were scored by home teams and just the 42 by the away team. So this is a trend which is ongoing now. And honestly, with the crowd factor, Salah, hopefully he's gotten his penalty miss out of the way as well. I'm going to back him, and I just think he's the best option. The odds agree too. The odds are saying that he's firmly the best captaincy option, 63% chance to score anytime, which is why I think he's the safe pick.
This seems like a classic case of do not overthink it and just stick the armband on. The second highest point scorer in the game at the moment at home against Palace. It doesn't get too much better than that. Okay, Man City versus Southampton, also a 3:00 fixture. Man City scored 6 midweek. This man, however, Ferran Torres, was not involved in any of those goals. Another wildcard acquisition from me. How would you rate his chances against Southampton, Bakar?
At the moment, I think he's City's starting striker at the moment, but you never know with Pep. Honestly, he got 70 minutes. I personally think he's likely to start because there's the Carabao coming up, and Pep might choose to rotate his players in that game rather than the league game. That's what I think, but you never know with Pep. And it's just the fact that if he starts, he has such serious potential that you'd be kicking yourself if you end up selling him or binning him before this home game against Southampton. And he's the kind of player who, even in the worst case scenario, even if he gets benched, he can get something on when he comes on as a substitute. The other thing is that even last week against Leicester, he actually played really, really well. He had 4 shots inside the box, 9 penalty area touches. His movement was great, and City were actually fairly poor when he went off. So I think this is a point in time where Pep sees Ferran as his best striker at the moment.
That's good to hear for me. However, let's imagine that I didn't own Torres, Bakar. Would you be recommending that I potentially bring him in this week? Or do you think it's one of those, don't get rid of him, don't buy him either?
Yeah. I think it's a classic case of don't buy, don't sell, particularly because of the rotation risk this week, and then after this week they have Chelsea and Liverpool in the upcoming 2 game weeks. So he's definitely not a buy at this point in time.
Rightio, thank you. Norwich versus Watford, the final of the 3:00 kickoffs that we're discussing here. And on screen, I have the expected goal stats for forwards between game weeks 1 and 4 at the moment. And Bakar, Pookie is 5th. He was FPL General's differential transfer pick in yesterday's video. And you want to discuss him here today as well. Is the Pookie party finally open for business?
This is an interesting one, James. In my opinion, I won't go there because of the fact that Norwich this season, their numbers in terms of XG haven't been great. You can argue that their fixtures haven't been great either, but personally, I haven't been too impressed with what I've seen. You say that he's 5th in terms of XG, but I think that's largely inflated due to the fact that some of it is down to the fact that he's been on penalties, and he's had, I think, 1 or 2 penalties in that run.
Yeah.
The other factor is you can argue that this game week is the one to bring him in because you can't actually get a better fixture than Watford on paper. But given the other options that we have, the likes of Jimenez and Bamford, I don't think it makes sense to go with someone like a Pookie.
Ominously as well for Arsenal defence owners, Chris Wood is actually 4th, level on XG with Pookie at 1.8, which shows, Bakar, as you were saying, that Burnley do carry some attacking threat, and it's not necessarily going to be a nailed-on clean sheet for us Tierney and Ben White owners. Thank you for that analysis. Let's move on to the 5:30 kickoff, Aston Villa versus Everton. Of course, there will be no Calvert-Lewin in that game, but plenty of Everton potential. Bakar, you've singled out 3 players: Richarlison, Doucouré, and of course, Demarai Gray. I've got Demarai Gray's stats on screen at the moment. Scored again in game week 4, frustrating for a non-owner. Can he continue this run though?
Before this week, James, I was of the opinion that he was overperforming because he had just the 2 shots and he scored from both. Both had an combined XG of just 0.2. And historically, he hasn't really been an out-and-out goal scorer, so it caught me by surprise to see him score again this week. This week, his numbers are actually pretty decent. He had a couple of shots inside the box, including a big chance, XGI of 0.7. So I think he's a good option to own for the next two fixtures, potentially even the next 5 fixtures. I'm not exactly against investing in him because of the fact that I'm also noticing, even from the eye test and the average position mark, that he was the most advanced forward for Everton, advanced player. particularly in the absence of Calvert-Lewin, he was really playing in an advanced role this week, and I think that might actually work to his benefit because he was the one who was making them runs in behind. Richarlison, you spoke about. In my opinion, I won't go there. He had just the one shot inside the box this game week, and he wasn't really involved. And historically, his numbers have been really poor without Calvert-Lewin last season as well. So I won't go there.
Decore also looks a bit of a trap to me. We've flirted with him in previous seasons, but he's never going to be a consistent attacking provider, right?
I agree. He's averaging over 6 FPL points per start this season, but I don't think that's likely to continue because his numbers don't make it seem as if it's sustainable as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Damari Gray's spider chart looking pretty diminutive, I think it's fair to say there. But Aston Villa and Norwich in his next two, a great opportunity to potentially expand it a little bit. But let's talk about Sunday's fixtures now, starting with 2 o'clock kickoffs. The first being Brighton versus Leicester. I've got Robert Sanchez's stats on screen. Bakar, he's had a relatively decent first 4 fixtures for his owners. It does look like they're about to turn, though.
Yeah, that's an interesting point now because, this has become a bit of a debate in the FPL community now that Brighton fixture swing is taking place. In my opinion, Brighton are the kind of defence which are system based, and I think they're going to make it hard even for the stronger teams. And this actually might work to his favour and to his benefit because I think they're going to allow more shots and that's going to probably benefit Sanchez. Brighton's numbers this season have been really impressive, as was the case last season as well. It's just that they've reverted to mean and they're actually keeping more clean sheets this time, which wasn't the case last season. This season they're fourth for XG conceded from open play, which just tells you how solid they are. And even when you look at some of their upcoming fixtures, the likes of Leicester, Palace, Arsenal, I won't be surprised if he hauled in any of those fixtures actually.
That's good news. Are there any other Brighton defenders that you would single out at the moment, or do you think Sanchez is the one to be investing in?
I think Sanchez is probably the best option. Now the fact that Webster is injured, Duffy actually might get a bit of a prolonged run in the team, which will be interesting to see. And I think Weltman is worth keeping an eye on as well if he continues to play the wing back position. But there's a chance that Lamptey might be back. I was reading, so that's something to keep an eye on. If you're looking for security of starts for the long run, then I think Sanchez is the one.
Lamptey and Veltman, very popular pre-game week 1. But yeah, Duffy, what a bargain. If he can continue to stay in that side, he offers a lot more attacking threat than any of his Brighton colleagues have done so far. Okay, the other 2 o'clock fixture, West Ham versus Manchester United. This one an exciting one, both from a league perspective and an FPL perspective. You have singled out Benrahma here, which is an interesting one because we've published an article this week on the Hub all about whether or not it's time to sell Benrahma. What are your thoughts, mate?
Now, this is an interesting one, James. Firstly, I'd like to discuss the impact of the absence of Antonio in this fixture. So, when I was comparing their numbers last season in the 15 games that Antonio didn't play, their numbers slightly dropped off, but even then, without Antonio, they're averaging 2 big chances per game and 8 shots inside the box per game, which tells me that there's still some cause for optimism for Benrahma's owners because West Ham might. It's not as if they'll be totally toothless without Antonio on the side. Having said that, I think it's definitely worth monitoring Benrahma's numbers because over the past 2 weeks, he's had just the one penalty area touch and just a single shot in the box. And the fact that Vlasic is becoming a bit of a factor now, and he might eat into his minutes because it might mean that Benrahma could potentially be subbed early, as was the case against Southampton. So it's worth monitoring, but I think he's worth keeping for this week.
It'll be interesting to see as well how he's used during the Europa League, of course, which is something that West Ham are going to have to contend with, at least for the first part of the season. Okay, and let's talk about Manchester United as well. It's going to have to be that man, Cristiano Ronaldo, who started his Manchester United Part 2 career exactly how we all hoped he would. You brought him in last week, didn't you, Bakar? Happy with his Game Week 4 performance?
Yep, as expected, he was the center of attention, and he marked his second debut with a brace. His underlying numbers were very impressive as well. 5 shots inside the box, 2 big chances. But, James, what I'm more interested in seeing is actually his impact on the other United assets. So when I look at the likes of Shaw created 4 chances this week, including 2 big chances. And now basically that takes him to second top among defenders for big chances created this season. Only Trent has created more. Bruno Fernandez. Now this is an interesting one. Bruno, he scored a sublime goal, but it was interesting to note that he had all of his 5 shots from outside the box, and none of them came inside the box. He created 1 big chance, which tells me that he's going to be a great assister, as has often been the case in the past, and his XA from open play is likely to be impressive. But the fact that if he's 12 million and if you're not exactly getting the kind of goal threat you ideally want from an asset at that price, that makes me think that it's probably worth getting rid of Fernandes for Ronaldo, because of the fact that it also allows you a structural change and an easy change from Ronaldo to Lukaku in Game Week 7, at the same point ensuring that you can take advantage of the Ronaldo captaincy in Game Week 6 against Villa.
Game Week 4 was the first game week that Newcastle haven't conceded a penalty, so we're yet to find out who is going to be on penalty duties. Solskjaer hinted that they might be sharing duties, but that further lessens Fernandez's appeal, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there was news pre-game that Ronaldo was going to be on penalties against West Ham. So there's that. We also have to talk about Greenwood. He got the assist, but in my opinion, he was a bit fortuitous due to the keeper error and the deflection. When I look at his numbers this season, his expected involvement is just 1.4. While he's had 4 goal involvements, which tells me that he's been significantly overperforming. I won't get rid of him this week, though. I mean, he was rested in the Champions League. He looks set to start, and the fact that West Ham, when I look at their numbers, they're conceding a lot of chances down their left flank. 47% of their chances, James, have been conceded down the left flank, and that is an area Greenwood is likely to target.
That final fixture in Game Week 5, and it could be a defining one for some managers. It is, of course, Spurs versus Chelsea. I've got a picture on screen at the moment, Bakar, of Kane looking sad. You want to talk about Kane. Good international break performances, not really converting into FPL performances, though.
Exactly, and Spurs, they actually shocked me, given how poor they were against Palace. I expected them to struggle, but I did not expect them to be this abysmal. They just had the 2 shots in the entire game. Palace had 18, so almost 9 times the number that Spurs had. When you look at Kane's numbers, they're really, really nothing impressive, and there's nothing much to talk about when you look at Spurs. If you own him at this point in time, it's about time that you get rid. Their expected goal tallies are way down. Their underlying numbers are nowhere near where they need to be. So it's about time that you get rid. The same applies for Son, in my opinion, particularly given the fact that they're playing Arsenal and Chelsea in the next couple of game weeks.
It's very ominous, isn't it? Because usually, even if Kane does go through a dry spell, his underlying stats remain amongst the best, certainly amongst forwards. So the fact he's not even posting those is certainly a concern for his owners. Let's talk about a forward in that game, however, who is loving life from an underlying stats perspective and an FPL perspective, Romelu Lukaku. And the question that has been on a lot of FPL managers' minds leading up to Game Week 5, Bakar, is can we get both Ronaldo and Lukaku into our sides? Is that a course that you would recommend?
I still stick by my original stance that picking 2 premium assets is better than picking 3. I still I've looked at a lot of teams and I still haven't come across a single team that I like, simply because of the compromises, the sacrifices being made elsewhere. When you pick 3 premiums, what it does is it increases the reliance on the third premium to perform, to the extent of over-reliance actually. Because what that means is that in case the third premium doesn't haul and if he blanks, then you leave yourself at the risk of being left behind by the pack of FPL managers who've invested in 2 reliable mid-priced assets, and you leave yourself exposed. And this game week was a rare occurrence where the 3 premium debate actually won, but I don't think it's going to be the case more often than not, because even when you look at Lukaku's numbers this week, he just had the 2 shots, 1 big chance. He was very, very clinical, but just imagine if he hadn't actually been as clinical, then I certainly think that those who went with 2 premiums would have been in benefit.
And of course, the other factor when you have 3 premiums instead of 2 is this issue of which one to captain, because suddenly you've got 3 options. 2 of them you're not going to be able to captain each week, which almost feels a little bit wasteful, doesn't it? Part of the value in these premiums is knowing that you're going to captain them
exactly
50% of the time.
Yep, value is the key word. Absolutely, you nailed it right there. If they're not your captaincy options, then they're not representing value. You don't invest in a 12 million player not to captain him.
Okay, so this means potentially then those that own Ronaldo at the moment and not Lukaku, rather than desecrating their teams to get both in simultaneously, might do well to wait until that fixture swing and actually go Ronaldo-less and favour Lukaku instead. Is that your plan?
Yeah, as a Ronaldo owner, what I'm doing is I'm keeping him for 5 and 6. In game week 6, he's the best captaincy option. In game week 5, Salah is the best captaincy option, in my opinion. And then you switch him to Lukaku in game week 7 when he has Southampton, and that is a fixture when that is a time when Liverpool are actually playing City. So you can't captain Salah in 7. That's a game week where you need a reliable captaincy option. United have Everton that week. Chelsea have Southampton, so Lukaku has the better fixture.
The idea of going without Ronaldo, I've only owned him for 1 week, but the idea of being without him is a scary one. But yeah, I mean that does, if you're not going to have them both, then that does seem the best way to go. Okay, Bakar, thank you so much for all of that wisdom across those 10 fixtures. We will be back, of course, next week looking ahead to game week 6. Until then, Bakar, good luck for game week 5. I hope I outscore you again. With all due respect.
Good luck to you too, James. Good luck to you too, James, and good luck to all our listeners and viewers.
Yes, absolutely.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you for watching, guys. If you have enjoyed this video, remember Bakar puts a lot of research and effort in prep for these videos. Do drop it a like and go and follow at BigManBakar on Twitter. As I always say, one of the best FPL accounts out there, which is why he's so followed. You probably follow him already. If you don't, you're missing out. So get on it. Full of statistical insight. A great FPL advice. Right, thank you. Cheers, Bakar. See you next week. Looking forward to it already,
mate. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure.